Hey everybody, shalom, good evening. This is Ted, host of Your Power Weapon on UrbansmartNetwork.com. We're out here every Monday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Coast time and 10 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. Every Monday night where we talk about the issues that particularly affecting black folks. And of course, we're going with the 14th Amendment. I keep 14th Amendment as the power, the source of our power weapon, black folks. And a lot of things are gelling in our country to really make this a reality where black folks understand who we are in the United States of America, particularly around all this COVID mandate matters and so forth. Nonetheless, folks, I want to, before we get into what we're going to talk about tonight with Emory McClendon from Louisiana. Emory, as you know, has been on here before, and he's going to be our lead contributor tonight. And Keith Hardeen, the host, y'all know Keith. He's here tonight as well. But I want to give you an update on Nora Massey in Buffalo. Her son Terrell, as you know, we talked about this before, is in a induced coma, and some real issues going on. And I spoke with her earlier tonight, and he seems to be paralyzed on his left side, and he's still on life support. So, think about him and pray for him. Pray for Nora that she's strong. So anyway, that's one of the issues going on out here today. I want you to know about. So anyway, let's get into this discussion tonight. Let's deal with black citizens of the United States effect on the COVID mandate that's going on in our country. How are we affecting it? Emory McClendon, talk to us, brother. How are you, my man? How are you, sir?
Oh, it's been a long day today. A little tired, but I'm in there. Thank God I'm here. Good to be here. Hello, America. And by the way, write this down, Ted. Indiana, not Louisiana.
Oh, my bad, yo. There you go again. My bad. Okay, Indiana, not Louisiana. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir. And
Uh,
I forgot to mention everybody. Keith Hardeen, our host, is here as well tonight, and I believe Louise Solomon is going to come on as well. So anyway, let's go back to Emory, and we'll come to Keith later. Go ahead, Emory.
yeah. See what were we discussing? I forgot already. You were talking about the vaccine mandate, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think that what we're seeing here is a worldwide rebellion because Americans, one of the things I was talking to some people today, um, um, not only in a couple of interviews that I had today, but also on the street, that are saying that people are fed up. People are fed up with being told what to do, especially when it comes to their health and their welfare, because they know their bodies better than an outsider. And they also are afraid of what's going down with these uh, mandatory edicts from the government and from these people who have, or these companies. Actually, it's not really the companies; it's people like Dr. Fauci and some of the other ones that are saying that, and the President Joe Biden that are saying that we have to take these vaccines mandatorily. Well, a lot of people have the attitude that, hey, if it ain't broke, why try to fix it? I am not having any problems. My immune system is strong.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
I don't. I've been around cases where people have had uh, the COVID-19 virus. I have not caught the virus, and it seems like the uptick from a lot of the evidence that we're seeing is between those who have been vaccinated, not the ones that have not. So why not let the herd immunity run its course? Why not let me be the
So, but but
decision maker?
I'm hearing at the same time, sir, that no, the ones that are going into the hospital are actually the people who are not vaccinated. In fact, Mr. Biden said something very telling. I don't know why people didn't pick it up and shut this thing down now, but he said, "I'm trying to protect the vaccinated people from the unvaccinated people." I'm saying, why does somebody call up and say, "Hey, man, this thing is over with"? What's talk to us, Emory? Keith, Keith,
Yeah,
Keith, you come in here right now, Keith. Keith, you here?
Yeah, yeah.
Keith, come in here and talk to us about this mandate issue and
Well,
how it's affecting us black folks particularly.
oh man, I don't. Be honest with you, I don't know how many. Look, I'll just say that I'm a little bit confused about something. Is that so many blacks have said that they are against the vaccine or don't want the vaccine, and yet they still support people who would force them to take the vaccine. In other words, they would vote for them, they would support them, anything to keep them in
But
office or keep them in power. So I don't quite understand that. And until I get an answer on that, I just, I don't know, and I don't know how it's really affecting black people in general, as a the mass of blacks. I really don't know.
Emery, sir, you're a military veteran and you have a whole ministry and work around remembering our veterans and our military personnel. I know here in LA, the police officers are rebelling against the mandate. This is what our rally was about yesterday out here in Venice Beach. And I've been understanding that the Navy SEALs and other military branches, etc., even veterans, talk to us about that, sir. What's going on there? Why would we attack our own military in such a form, such a way? Or who is
Well,
attacking our military?
when you have a leader who doesn't respect the military, doesn't respect law enforcement, has called on our people that protect us to stand down, allow looters to run rampant across this country, especially in places like Seattle, Wisconsin, and other hot spots in the nation, uh, to loot, to riot, and to burn. Quite naturally, if they can't defund the police uh, because the people rebel against that, and the city councils and state legislatures continue to fund them, what better way to pseudo defund them than to have them inoculated and get sick or whatever, or cause a lot of them to quit our police forces, to resign or be fired, forced out of their job, so that we can weaken the police force in that way. See, one thing about uh, the progressives and the socialists or whatever, they always have plan A, plan B, plan C. If one thing doesn't work, they've got backups way ahead of our thinking as to what they can do to destroy the situation. And I think that's what we see a lot of right now, is that if we can't get them one way, we'll backdoor them through another way. And what you don't see the other countries doing this to their militaries, to their police departments,
Not that
and
we
so
know of.
forth.
Not that, not not
Yeah,
not
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 that we
that we
know of.
know of. But
Right, I was going to add
whether
that,
they're
but
doing
I don't think they are.
and whether they're doing it or not, the United States ain't got no business doing this kind of a thing, because that's what the Nazis did, man.
Right,
You know, it's
and
the
especially not
seeds of
broadcasting it.
Nazism is everywhere. But what bugs me a lot is I'm sitting here pretty much on the sideline. Now I understand that you're pretty much out there in that fight, and I don't understand the patriot leadership in this country, whether political right or left. How in the world did they let it get to this point? I'm not upset with them socialists and Marxists and all them cats that creeped up in here and whatnot. I'm talking about, where was our vanguard? The Republicans talk a lot of stuff, and so do them conservatives. Where was our vanguard for all this patriotism?
Well, a lot of them are not true patriots. A lot of them are not true
We find
conservatives.
that out, ain't we?
Yeah,
Boy, we
neoconservatives,
find that out.
rhinos, and they're actually on the side of what's going down here in America as far as progressivism, not caring about whether or not socialism gets a grip and a stronghold, in this country. All they worry about is their double and triple 401k plans, the big congressional retirement plans, for serving a couple of terms in
But
Congress.
sir, not to interrupt, my apologies. But here comes a big old fast moving 100-mile-an-hour freight train coming down the track. And everybody's on that track, including those that's gobbling up everything and doing all those things you're talking about. What's gonna stop that? How are we gonna get out of that situation? Because it's coming.
The only way to get out of it is you have to educate people and let them understand what's going down. we have a disadvantage because we don't have the media on our side. All we have is word of mouth and social media and programs such as what you are doing right here,
But
Ted.
they're gonna put
So,
if this freight train hits, they're going down too.
right, they're
Everybody.
going down too. But see, but they don't think that. The same thing happened in Nazi Germany. The same thing happened in Russia. The same thing happened in China, North Korea. You name it. You can go on. Pol Pot in Cambodia. North Vietnam. It's a continuing cycle. Um, you hear these people all the time talk about how they want change. I don't care if it's in Cuba through Castro and his brother or anybody else, Che Guevara or any of those guys. The thing of it is that when the systems went down, they took them down too. The leaders who were going along with them because they couldn't trust them. And why would they trust Joe Biden? Why would they trust AOC? Why would they trust? Because they were going to figure those guys know too much. So they're probably going to be the first ones to get the freight train hit. Or if not, when the soldiers get off that freight train and start looking for the dissidents, those people are going to be high priority on the list to look for because they want to get them out of the way so that if they did wise up and because they have money in the bank and so-called quote unquote executive privilege, they want to get them out of the way. So people are being deceived.
But
They hate these young.
on one hand too, I discovered is that apparently, see, Keith, I don't know if you heard this or not, but apparently a third of the American people are refusing the vaccine, no matter what race, color, religion, whatever.
Right.
A third of them, and what I understand, when this country started in that first civil war, not civil war, but that first revolutionary war, only a third of the people participated in that battle. A lot of them chickened out and ran home and got tired of it and couldn't deal with it no more. And I'm just wondering, but when they call people who are unvaccinated criminals, domestic terrorists, and seems like they're trying to turn the population against a certain kind of people. Am I right about that, Keith? Is that
Absolutely, you are right. You're correct. It's definitely they are trying to separate us, and they are trying to divide us, divide us, based on and discriminate based on vaccination status. Instead of skin color, it's vaccination status. Of course, skin color too. They try to do that as well on the left. But that's what's happening here, and it's an affront against our very declaration principles. Principles.
would you guys tie in to all of this? This shop, mop, and grab situation that's happening around the country right now. Do you think that's a result of just COVID frustration, or do you think that's the police are not there? What do y'all think is driving that? And on top of that, the whole because in the midst of all this looting, no doubt people are going to stand up with their guns and they're going to say, hey, no, you ain't going to be running up in here on my property, like this Rittenhouse situation that Keith was talk with me about today. So Keith, talk to us a little bit about that. Is that all that tied in together or what? Because it's happening so fast.
Well, it's something that Rittenhouse said today in an interview when he was being interviewed by Tucker Carlson. And I agree 100%. I love what he said. That young man is a hero to me. I mean, to be so young, 17, and to be mature enough to handle that situation that he handled. Very well trained with his rifle. And I think that's a pretty awesome thing. I mean, don't they send to war 17-year-olds? Don't they send them over, Emory?
Yes, in other words, don't mess with him, right?
Yeah, see, so they send a 17-year-old over to fight in another country across the globe. And yet here at home, this notion that the right of self-defense doesn't apply. I mean, give me a break here. This kid was defending himself, and the right of self-defense is what was on trial in that whole trial. It was nothing else, nothing more. It wasn't even a Second Amendment issue as far as I'm concerned. It was a right, basic natural right to self-defense. And that's what won. And that's why I know that the Lord God was in that trial, that God himself was in it and made sure that victory that justice had prevailed. And that's exactly what happened that night, or that, time when in the trial, in the exoneration, the acquittal.
Well, you know, people have said though, Keith, and Emery and folks listening, that he's a white supremacist. You know, he's a terrorist. He's a threat, and that other. This gives the dog whistle to other young, powerful white boys to, in the name of self-defense, go around shooting and killing innocent people who are protesting simply because they want to change in America. That's what this is, gentlemen.
No, it's once again, the right of self-defense is a basic natural right given by God to man for the preservation of mankind.
But why do you suppose, sir? Why do you suppose that people out there, certain entities out there, continue to drum that narrative that what I just mentioned? Why is that going on?
Well, think about it. If the police had been withdrawn, the mayor and the public officials, they withdrew the police. The police are there to protect the people. There's their natural rights, their right to life, liberty, property. They did not protect property. Property was at stake. So this young man went out to protect property. That was his intention. Stated it over and over again. And when he went out to protect property, he was confronted by a mob. And that mob tried to kill him. At least some of them did. And yet he defended himself successfully. I mean, that had to be God.
I understand that apparently I forget. There's a number of people that I lost my train of thought, folks. My bad. Go ahead, Keith or Emery.
Yes, Emery, go. Your turn.
Yeah. First of all, I like to say that, and answer your question, that the people who fail to protect, like the mayors, the legislatures, the liberal and progressive senators, congressmen, or whatever you want to have, governors, they want to tear this country down one pillar at a time, whether that be First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, you name it, whether it be the right to protect property and your family and your homestead, whether it be through an energy crisis, whether it be through vaccine mandates, all of this stuff is one pillar at a time. And they'll use divisions regardless to what they are, whether it's religion, whether it's racial. We see that through the persecution of the church. We see it through the persecution of having people have mandatory vaccinations with no choice to get out. We see that they'll do it through unemployment. They'll do it through supply chain, and the list goes on and on and on and on. The weakening of our military, the mischaracterization of people like Rittenhour, so it doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to them because to them, the ends justifies the means, and they want to bring that means to a fruition by any means necessary. So therefore, we're put at the bottom of the priority list. And when you get a guy like, take a look at Rittenhour. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you read things and you listen to what they have to say. He went there to protect property, to try to make it look like he was illegally crossing a state line. Well, he had one parent that lived on one side of the line and the other one lived on the other side. So the man had a right to be where he was. He went to protect property along with other people who also did so. Now, one thing that I mentioned to some people, and it's kind of funny to me, is there were people on the other side that also displayed guns. They had rifles that were standing.
Yeah, well, exactly. We heard about that. In fact, the one guy that Rittenhouse took out, the one guy had his gun on him, and he shot him. Yeah, he brandished a weapon. And that's why he shot.
But they don't bring that up. And then also they don't show the pictures of the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter people parading around in the streets with their weapons, their baseball bats, their you name it, what else? The bottles
and the
of
dudes,
urine,
and the dudes that got and the dudes that got taken out, they were thugs, prisoners.
Yeah.
Okay,
and they make them heroes.
Michael, again, what we have to do, I believe anyway, folks, is because I'm hearing a rebellion all across the country, Emory, um, standing up for police and military personnel all over the country, all over the world. But it's kind of helter skelter. It's everywhere here and there. It doesn't seem to be any kind of a coalescing into a functioning body politic. We're almost like BLM movement and Occupy Wall Street movement. We don't have a central point. Or are you seeing anything out there developing, Emory? And Louise Solomon is on right now. She's been a warrior in this for over a year now, and she's been doing a lot of activist work out here in Los Angeles. And at some point we'll bring Louise in. Hello, Louise.
Hi, everyone.
There you go.
Yeah.
Emory, back to you, sir.
Yeah. See, the problem there is too. Ever since World War I, World War II, we showed a lot of respect for our soldiers, brought them home, had ticker tape parades and so forth.
Right.
Then things began to slide downhill with the Korean War, the Vietnam War, some of the other conflicts. All of a sudden, the military is baby killers, and it started there, and we threw things at them, misrepresented them, began to. I had the mayor of our city here. His brother was actually shot in an airport by hippies calling him a baby killer when he came back from Vietnam. Okay, so now
I remember those days. I really do.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Then you had all the stuff that was going on in Berkeley, California, and around the big Air Force base there, where they were taking off and coming back from Asia.
That was media driven, wasn't it? Was that media driven? That was media driven.
Media driven. And the same thing's happening today. Okay, today, the focus is primarily on law enforcement because that's our front line here on the domestic front to stop.
But doesn't that make sense? If you're trying to take down a regime or a nation, wouldn't you strike at the police or the law enforcement? It matters.
That's exactly right, and that's my point.
So that's smart.
And so you weaken the military.
Sure.
You weaken your police force. You weaken the justice system, and then you make the people afraid to stand up for their own rights. You take their guns away from them and their means to protect their families, their homes, their property, their businesses. Then what do you have?
Well, folks. Well, I don't want to digress. Louise, welcome to Your Power Weapon. How are you this evening? Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ted.
Louise, so you was with me yesterday. Tell the folks a little bit about what happened out there in Venice Beach concerning all this COVID mandate matter and what we're doing.
We're fighting on, but I just don't feel the sense of urgency with the American people. I don't know if it's because we prevailed in the Carl Rittenhouse trial. We had some great guest speakers. We had Joe Collins, we had Kathleen Hazelton, we had open mic, we had a gubernatorial candidate, and the people that were there were very committed, but we just didn't have enough people. And that seems to be the issue with a lot of these protests. Is it seems to me that the American people look at these as an outing, an event to go to that's fun, versus something to defend their First and Second Amendment rights, or right now First Amendment rights. So I'm trying to figure out, Ted and I are trying to figure out a way to, get more people. So, some people told me, well, it's because it was on Sunday. And then some people say, well, it's because it was at Venice Beach. I mean, you can't please everybody, but it seems to me that the sense of urgency with the American people is just not there. Now, we did attract some passersby, and that was great. But, I guess until the food is not on the shelves, I guess people can't feed themselves. I don't think they're going to feel this sense of urgency that we feel here,
Thank you, Louise. We appreciate that. Definitely, Louise is a real warrior in this matter. One of the actual leaders, because a lot of people just now catching on to this matter, and and that's good that they're waking up. We all wake up in our waves, and I'm sure more and more people are going to wake up. And that's not my concern. At least not my concern so much. My concern is that we need to bring it all into a functioning, focused body politic. And I believe that that on the lead front of that should be the black citizens of the United States, not to make it a color or issue who's bigger and better than the other. I'm dealing with the historical aspects that perhaps on the lead front, the descendants of the Choctaw slaves, because we were once, living human property. So if anybody understands Choctaw slavery, we do. So with them with that body of politics being 70% against this mandate, as we move forward together, that maybe the idea is to get all the other groups across the country, in LA, wherever, to unite behind that particular banner. And I think when we get all those lights focused and bringing in, of course, the 14th Amendment power that we have in the Civil Rights Act of 1866, I believe that we could put a nonviolent, peaceful end to this mandate, which it will affect the rest of the world. Don't you think? That's my approach to it. Keith?
That's a good thing. I think to Louise' point, everybody,
Hi.
yeah, hi, Louise. Everybody has a part to play, and I know that it just seems like everybody's doing something different, but at the same time, I kind of look differently on this. I look at this whole battle as, if I can put it this way, guys, you know where I'm coming from when I say this. I look at it as the Lord's battle. I look at it as he is the general. He is the great king who designs and orchestrates the battle. It's like Gideon, who had 300. He said, "By the 300 I will save," and that's in the Bible. Gideon was a man who was afraid to do it in the daytime. He did at night what God told him to do in darkness, so that nobody could see him. In other words, he still did it, but he did it at night. God told him to do. And I believe that God is the one orchestrating all this. He's the one that's going to run the show, and we have to just get on board with what He wants us to do. And I think that's very important. Learning to hear from Him, learning to listen to His Spirit as He teaches us and tells us what to do. That's how we win this battle, and it's not going to be won any other way, in my opinion. So that's why I'm saying it just seems like people aren't really on fire, but I think that it's more than people. It has more to do with God's will, and that's it's the same way with the American Revolution. There were not a majority of people who stood up against
Only a third.
Only that's right. It's only a small minority, because God wants the glory, and it had to be God that won against the greatest British army in the world at that time. The British Army was the greatest in the world. And
let me ask you a question. Let me digress for a minute. I couldn't leave this one alone. So recently, the most powerful military in the history of the world just got chased out of Afghanistan by a bunch of Bedouin and tribal local people. Was that God?
Well, hey, but
well,
hey, why not? Why not? Because
I'm asking you. Talk to the people.
Well, I'm talking to the people now. I said, when a nation turns its back on God, when a nation turns away from its basic terms of agreement, the terms of agreement that America made with the founders was the agreement, was the Declaration of Independence, and Britain had the Magna Carta. They turned away from the Magna Carta principles. We turned away from the Declaration of Independence principles. And when that happens, a nation begins to fail. And
so you're saying, what you're talking sounds to me like you're talking about what Daniel said in Daniel chapter 4, 17. Know thou, O man, that the Most High rules in the kingdoms of men and gives it to whomsoever he will, even the basest, the worst of them. So what you're saying then is that the Declaration of Independence apparently is not being obeyed by the United States. Well, in one way, you just said that like this Rittenhouse thing, that God won that, so But what else is happening with the inflation and all of these things where we're looking like, folks, we're going to lose this republic? And Benjamin Franklin ain't going to be too pretty much happy about that, because they said, we've given you a republic if y'all can keep it.
Well,
So
God,
what about that, Keith?
God's in control of that too. I mean, our economy, we should have failed a long time ago when you think about it. I mean, with all the, we're in the trillions, we're spending trillions. Inflation is incredibly, I mean, it's inevitable. Inflation. We're going to have a real rough time. I'm amazed that it isn't worse, but we're still spending money. We're still giving away money. Look at the reparations that they want to give away to illegal
Well,
aliens.
wait, let me come in for a minute on this one. The reparations. Now, here's an interesting question, folks. They want to give people who broke into the country $450,000, some up to $1 million, for reparations for breaking into the country. And they use the word reparations. At the same time, here in America, in the United States, whether you agree or disagree with reparations, we need to unite on this one. How in the world must Congress demand that there is a law written called H.R. 40 just to study whether black people should give whatever kind of reparations, right? And now here comes the president, this gentleman. I need to be respectful, regardless, and I got to practice that. Here, this guy is going to take his executive power and take taxpayers' money and give it to people breaking the country. Why ain't black citizens all over America, especially them reparation Biden blacks, why aren't they out leading thousands of people marching about that? Tens of thousands of people. Where are they? If I could, I would. I don't have that kind of influence. But those with the influence, and I'm sure Emory, you would. Louise, you would. Chief, you would. But we don't have that platform. Where they at, y'all? Where's Donald Trump?
Nobody's saying anything, huh?
No, I was just waiting.
Crickets. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just waiting.
How about giving
for,
it to the people on the street that really need it? How about, $450,000 per person? What that could do? That could put everybody off, take everybody off the streets. This is a wealthy nation. Let's do something for our own family. Our family meaning the American people, the people that are born here or came here legally, like my family. I see too many similarities here from Nazi Germany, from slavery. I see too many similarities here.
Louise, your parents are Holocaust survivors, am I correct?
That is correct.
Talk to us, Louise.
So my father passed away in 1997. He was sick his whole life because he was starving during the war. He was in China. He managed to get one of the last boats from Berlin to Shanghai. So he spent the war in Shanghai, but he had no food, and they came to this country legally. Both my mother spent the war with a Catholic family in the mountains, not far from Paris, in somewhere in France, and also starving and freezing. But my mom's alive. She's 90.
Because unless you're a Nazi,
correct,
and you can show your papers, you cannot participate in society. In fact, you are a vermin, and you need to get away from society. Am I correct, Louise? It was about that piece of paper, right? About that piece of paper.
Not only the Jews were vermin, the Christians.
Right.
And this time, we're all vermin. All of us. And why people aren't standing up, like in millions, I don't understand. When they said they want to give $450,000, which is partly my money, my tax money, to people that are coming here and criminals, I don't get it. I don't get it. I think we don't have a government anymore. I think.
Well, that's okay.
The states need to get rid of our central government, and we need to redefine what a central government is for the people.
And Emory,
this is not our government anymore.
Yeah.
Emory, back to you.
I'm so mad.
Louise, thank you.
10 million people on the streets. Anyway.
Thank you, Louise.
Don't get me going.
Where you going? Thank you so much, Louis. Appreciate your passion. Go ahead, Emery. Talk to us, brother.
A lot of the problem is what has happened over a process of time during the protest. Okay, people have noticed that whenever the left, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, at the time it was Occupy, prior to that, they got the media, they got the support. They were the ones that were out there in the streets knocking people over, burning up cars and breaking windows and all that. They got away with it. Okay, so in comes things getting worse and worse for conservatives, and all of a sudden the silent majority says, we want to wake up. We are going to go out and hit the streets. We're going to rally. They did it peacefully. The media wouldn't cover it, but they drew large crowds anyway at a lot of these rallies in Washington, D.C. and around the country, St. Louis and other places. I was at a lot of those rallies. Okay, but what happened was the movement got hijacked. Also, there were people that were in the movement simply because, like Louise said, they thought it was some kind of big social event or a fun time to go out, show their face, be in a large crowd, go down in history, and then they went back home. A lot of the Tea Party groups that started around this country started off and they grew and they grew and they grew. But when the novel wore off, people disappeared. That was the time that we really needed to have stuck with the movement and continued on, put the right people in office.
But apparently there was no leadership. They were helter skelter, reactionary, more than planning to go forward.
There didn't have to be leadership. That was the main problem. People let these pseudo leaders usurp the movement, and it became a one-man show. And
but as I don't know, my opinion, as I understand it, George Washington was a one-man show.
Well,
I mean, George Washington was
it. It was totally different. Okay? It's totally, he wasn't in it for money. He was in it for the United States. He even, to prove that point, when they wanted to make him king and make him continue to be the president of the United States, what did he do? He stepped down and said, no, let's have elections and let's get somebody else in there.
Absolutely. We honor it, but that's what I'm saying. That's what in order to save this country, to continue this revolution that's never ended until we achieve that American dream, we need a George Washington, somebody who can organize this thing. We need Patrick Henry. We need what's his name? Thomas Jefferson. We need Adams.
We have those kind of people that are out there.
Oh, where are they?
Okay. Here's the problem. One of the problems. I'm not saying that's all a total problem. Is that no name people. No name. Okay, the liberals thrive on celebrities. Okay,
listen.
Wait. Whenever they have a big rally in Washington, D.C., what do? They call in the big guns, okay? And the big guns run these rallies and they ramble on and on and on. They're really not saying a whole lot, but they can draw crowds because that's what's happening. Conservatism kind of followed that same pattern, which was a big mistake. They claimed that they were grassroots and that it was a movement of the people. But what we did, we followed the celebrity pattern and then it failed. Okay. So then people decided, I'm turning tail. I'm going home because it didn't work. People became discouraged. I've talked to a lot of people here in Indiana and around the country as I go and speak. I'm not going to waste my time out there anymore because every time we tried to do something, we got usurped by charlatans. Okay. What we need to do.
You mean someone on the so-called patriot side of the struggle?
Right. Which
turned out to be a pimp. Turned
out to be a poverty pimp or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever. They're pimping the crisis.
Right. The people for money, fortune, and fame. And then all of a sudden, these movements didn't become a patriotic movement anymore. They became a personal movement.
And business enterprise.
Behind the scenes.
Business enterprise.
That's how we can save our country.
Right. What we need to do is get people back out there to unify, and then they will come back out in numbers because they realize that they have a voice once again, not just the media going to pick out one person to speak for them. Speaking for them. So we got to advertise. We have to advertise. We have to start all over again from the ground up and work our way back up to the top floor.
I agree. And we have to have a message when we get to that top floor. What happened with Black Lives Matter, what happened with Occupy Wall Street, they knocked on the door of the man's house, the man, not the butler, the man himself opened the door and said, what y'all punks want? And they didn't know what the frick they wanted. Same with the civil rights movement. King and Malcolm. I was back there as a little boy and a teenager. You know, I remember all the rhetoric, all the talk. And when they got in there and sat down, I'm not condemning them because I was a kid. They were doing the best they could. But when they sat down at the table and Johnson them said, what y'all Negroes want? They didn't know. So what they said, here is something for you called social welfare. We're going to take care of y'all.
Right. And we had a message.
I'm sorry?
We had a message during the conservative Tea Party movement when it first started, but that message got dwindled out by, like I said, the people who took over the movement. It's funny because they took it over to be in the limelight, to write books, to get large salaries, huge salaries and whatnot. And then it all went by the wayside because, like I said, people they went back home. There was nothing going on. I can testify to that personally because I started the Tea Party movement here in Northeast Indiana. We had the second largest rally in Indiana and also the second largest rally in the tri-state region here, right, Michigan, right, Illinois, yes, Ohio, you know.
Yes, sir. Y'all was rolling. Y'all was rolling.
Large. Yeah. And it was started by me, a black person.
You at the helm.
And I spoke at the Indianapolis rallies and so forth, and I went around the country.
Can I stop you for 1 second? Can I stop you for 1 second now? For that region, everybody was popping up all over the place like they're doing right now. For that region, somehow you was able to be the George Washington, weren't you? So they need a leader. They need someone to lead because they don't know what they're doing out there. Right. They got the message, but they don't. I'm sorry?
And the media played an important part.
But then forget about the media. Forget about the media.
No, you can't. But you can't forget about the media because you can't forget the media because we have to notice what they did.
I'm down with all that, and I agree. But I'm trying to get us to focus on what are we going to do. What is our strategy? What is our message? What is our catalyst? What is our glue that will hold us together when we sit down with the man at the table and say, what y'all Negroes want? We say A, B, C, and D. And that's what, and that is part of my vision here at Your Power Weapon is to get people to understand that we have certain amount of power by which we can stop all this stuff, but we need to raise a banner, and I think that banner starts with us black folks because we have the legal and the moral high ground to do that. So that is my dream, that envision that Your Power Weapon is going to be that platform on Urban Smart Network that's going to draw that energy, and that you, Emery, and Keith, and Sir Louise, and Arthur, and Cynthia, and all the rest who've been on here and come on here regularly, we are going to become that element. That's my personal dream. I don't know.
Yeah,
is that a bad dream? Is that a bad wish?
It falls back to what Keith was saying. God is the leader of this battle. Who was it that started the movement with the people? It was the Black Robe regime. When that Black Robe regime got out there and preached what Almighty God had for this nation and it stirred up in the people's hearts that they ought to put God first, and this whole thing would roll the way that it should have, what happened? Things turned around. We have allowed, that's why I brought up the media. People went running back to the media, these so-called pseudo leaders, and they wanted to be more in the limelight of the media light. So they usurped the grassroots people and knocked us right out of the way. But like Louise said, we have to get behind the scenes, work. We have to use things to our advantage. We have to go out, and even if it means going door to door, and re-put in people's hearts the urgency of what it's going to take to win this country back.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And that's why we were out there in Venice Beach every Saturday and Sunday, Been out there for a year and a half, folks, with with our American flag upside down. Great big flag. You go to battlesofblacklives.com and you can see what we've been doing out there. And finally, we got together a group of people. Wasn't a whole bunch of us, but you know what? It was the quality of what we had. Like Louise said, we had the governor candidate out there. We had Joe
Collins.
Collins out there. We had, people
Gabe
fought
Lozano.
traffic, Sunday afternoon traffic. Yeah, Lozano, everybody was out there, fought traffic to get in there. Those few people are disciples, and they had the heart
Yes.
to go through the weather to get there, like those
Yeah.
troops at Valley Forge, man. They had the heart and the vision and the passion to put up with that cold. Me, I would have booked. I don't like the hawk.
It's American people are very spoiled. I'm really disappointed.
Well, aren't all people spoiled? Aren't all people spoiled? Isn't this what the whole
I've had a
thing's
good
about?
life. I've had a good life, but people aren't. I'm a salesperson, and one of my managers used to tell me, you've got to explain to them the sense of urgency. They just don't know there is a sense of urgency until you educate them. They're just not aware. And plus, the media is not helping us.
Louise, try to keep your camera still as much as possible, because and keep yourself centered, because you got a lot of passion and you're buck dancing. So be still.
And she's right. And she's right, Ted. And what happened is people are so lackadaisical that they would rather depend on someone else to step up for them than they would step up for themselves. And I think Keith kind of talked about that a little bit too, or hinted around a little bit of that. So what we need to do is we got to get people to realize that it's going to take all of us working together, hand in hand, to solve this. Realize that God is going to be the principal source here, and He'll lead us. And if we follow His principles, His moral code, we can win this thing. But that's the problem. We have allowed this country to slide so far into the abyss that people think it's no way to bring it back.
And the way we're going to start bringing it back, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're black, white, brown, red, yellow, whatever, if you're a United States citizen, you need to slow down. Open the Declaration of Independence. Read it really slow. The part in the middle, the guts that talks about the king and all that stuff and his mess up, just pull that out. Set it on the side. That's another thing. And then the Declaration condenses into the essentiality of what it is. Turns out that God is mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Even if he was mentioned once would suffice, but he's mentioned 4 times, therefore making the Declaration of Independence not just a legal document and the first law of the United States of America, but it makes that document actually scripture. And if that is scripture, it is sacred. And if that is sacred, he gave us the gift of freedom and life. Yet further in the Constitution, down that portion, you'll read where the founding fathers acknowledge exactly what Emory said. That the people, it says it right there in it. Keith, if you can look it up real quick and read it to the people, because I think they need to hear this. And they say that the people are likely to accept suffering that they are accustomed to than to rise up and deal with it. Of course, the next verse says, well, we've had enough, even though that's true, or we've kindly had that. But here we are. Emory just said it, just what is in the Constitution. But therefore, God has got to fix it, though. And that's why the Constitution ends with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence.
Right.
Read it, y'all.
Yeah.
That's your first law. That's your birth certificate.
It's been there.
Tells you who you are, sir.
And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more likely, listen to this, mankind are more disposed, rather.
But start over. Start that again, real slow.
It says, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves
Mm.
for abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
And
Now,
that's Keith, brother. Thank you.
let me just
Go
say,
ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
reading that today.
made a
Oh no,
was
you
reading
were not. No, you weren't, man. Stop. I'm an elder. Don't be messing with me like that.
let me
Where's your respect?
say that we have been made accustomed to LG, to what is that guy's? You remember you mentioned LG, Lyndon B. Johnson. We have been
Yeah.
accustomed to socialism since the great, the great deal, the big deal,
Yeah,
The New Deal. The New
1965.
Deal.
The
Yeah, the New Deal.
economic
yeah,
development act. Yeah.
yeah. So we've
Called
been,
the war on black people. No, it's
yeah.
called the war on poverty. But it's the war on us.
So we have been made
It's not
accustomed.
funny.
We have been
What?
made accustomed to that lifestyle. We've been made accustomed to big government since that time, and probably even before that, because in the early 20th century, progressivism took hold and began to really just move us away from the founding principles of the Declaration. So
You said
it's been a long time.
something
People got accustomed to that. It's
yes, sir.
like last week, the analogy was brought up, warming up the frog in the pot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. At the same time, though, that document that Keith read was written 245 years ago. So essentially, the people 245 years ago that's talking the Declaration of Independence are still here today. You see, so somewhere in here, some very bright, brilliant people in the neighborhood started thinking together, started comparing notes with each other, even debating one another, and they began to forge out a statement that could unite the 13 colonies and give them the passion with God as the center character to bring it all together and make the thing happen. Those people are here today, and I believe the same minds that was then are running around in this country today. Somehow, at some point, of course, God would do it in heaven, but somewhere on earth, there's some things I think that we need to do.
And that's why we don't sit around and though we talk about God being our leader, God being the one to fix it, he also told us that works, faith without works is dead. We also have to do our part. We are
Right.
God's hands and his feet.
Right.
Teach,
We're,
teach,
so we
brother.
just don't sit back and twiddle our thumbs and wait. And I
Exactly.
like some of the ideas that Louise said.
Thank you.
As we're starting to round out here, but we're coming up on 8 minutes. This is kind of like the de facto OG club, and everybody got a little bit of gray hair in their head from one to like now, and you guys are talking a lot about God, and because we want the younger people to start realizing it's time to look up to us. Talk to us some more, just shortly here, about this whole idea that God is at the center of all of this, and why. What does it mean to these young brothers out here trying to find their way? They don't have a doctrine. They don't know nothing.
Go ahead,
Anybody?
Keith.
Anybody? Keith?
Well, I was just looking at something in the scripture as you were saying that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7, he said, he talked about judge not that you be not judged. Now, ever since then, a lot of people have said, well, you're not supposed to judge anything. No, that's not what it means. It means that you should judge righteous judgment. You should make righteous judgment when you
Decisions? Decisions?
Yes, that's right. We all have to discriminate and judge, but it has to be judged according to a standard. And what is that standard? Our Declaration of Independence tells us that standard. The laws of nature and of nature's God. That's in the first paragraph of the Declaration. That was known in that generation as a legal document, as well as, that was a legal document. And yet today, they don't regard it as legal document.
Well, that's where we're going to turn it. We have to, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I brought that issue up, because we have to. We have to stop saying the Declaration of Independence as a mere documented folklore of way back when that is gone. No, we have got to. It's our objective. My objective anyway, is to make sure that people understand that the Declaration of Independence is a sacred document because God is in the center of it, and that there's a lot of people, especially around Venice, that are starting to believe in God more and more. There's something out there, and divine providence. I'm as bad as things are. Divine providence is gonna bring us through. That's what it's always been.
And let me say
That's
this.
why it's so.
Okay.
That's why it's so important that we teach
Yeah.
civics in school, because we have gotten away from our foundation, and we need to get back to that foundation. And it has to start with the youth, because they're the ones that are coming up and are going to be the next generation. If the old G's and the older generation doesn't teach our kids the right direction to go, hey, if the blind leads the blind, like Jesus said, they both shall fall into the ditch.
You know, folks, we were, and we're going to give Louise a last word here, but I want to say something real quick about Emory so everybody will understand something about this man that we've had on the program tonight, and that has been coming on periodically with us from the beginning. Actually, this is no, Johnny come lately. I got a good idea. This is not a guy who talks patriotism and honor and so forth. This is a man. I've never met this brother physically in my life. We just talked by the phone over the years, and he's been very respectful. And this brother is out there, and he is running for school board, in which he believes, or not running, he is walking to school board, and he believes, and I believe him too, that he is going to be able to effectuate getting that kind of education into the school system, and perhaps in the school system, Indiana could become a model that will go across the country. And so we just want y'all to know that as you think about this, you got a cat out there who ain't just waving flags. So he's got a bunch of them to sell you. It's the t-shirts and hats and things. But this is a cat that is an actual patriot warrior. Okay, just want to clear that up. Louise.
So, I've been listening to this. This has been great because I've got some ideas. Until we
you got a minute. You got a minute, but we'll give you back next week. But go ahead.
Until we get this into the schools, let's let our next peaceful demonstration be a constitutional class. Let's give the people something and see how many we can get. Let's make it a class.
Well, I propose to you, Elizabeth, then that you write a statement and we put a flyer out, let's you and Keith and us, let's talk about that, okay?
Yeah.
Let's get it going.
Yeah. Let's see the teachers.
All right, let's do that.
Or not me, you two.
Yeah, okay, well, however you want to put it. We're gonna do that. Folks, this is Ted, your power weapon on Urban Smart Network. We've been here discussing across all of these matters, and I just want to say to everybody, thank you for being here. We'll be back here again next Monday night at 7:00 p.m. Pacific Coast time and 10:00 p.m. East Coast time. And you can go to my website, mattersofblacklives.com. mattersofblacklives.com. That's the portal that'll get you into where I'm thinking and all the stuff that's blowing up around my head and this I can't this thing is anyway, the 14th Amendment, all right, and you get a better understanding of what's going on, and let's keep this going, gentlemen. Till next week, can we all be here again, you think? Or
sure,
you're all welcome. If you can't, great, but if you can't, I want to continue the conversation, because we're going to turn this more into a teaching thing so that the young people can learn to grasp onto something.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. And don't forget, urbansmartnetwork.com. Go there, like us, Facebook us, be a part of us, join the movement. Thank y'all. Good night.
Thank
Shalom.
you, Ted.
Good night.
Thank you, Louise.
Good night. Nice seeing you, everyone. Bye.